Welcome back to the inaugural JNS International Policy Summit hosted here at the Waldorf Astoria in the heart of Jerusalem. I'm Ariella Novak, journalist and co-founder of Shield Communications PR and Bottom Line Media. I'm excited to be podcasting throughout the evening today. Now I have a wonderful guest with me today. Her name is Melanie Phillips. She's a renowned British journalist, broadcast and author, which I will share with you her book, with a distinguished career that spans decades. She is widely recognized for her incisive columns in the Times of London and Jewish News Syndications, JNS, where she offers sharp analysis on Israel, anti-Semitism, and the evolving cultural landscape in the West. With her expertise, she provides invaluable insights in the intersection of media, politics, and culture. Now, we'd like to explore some topics with you. Is that all right?
Fine.
Wonderful. So, first and foremost, I have this beautiful book sitting in front of me. Can you tell me a little bit about The Builder's Stone? I'll show it right here.
Right. What it's basically saying is that one can't understand the onslaught upon Israel and the West, and Israel and the Jews within the West, unless one understands the onslaught that the West has committed itself against itself over many decades. By which I mean this, that our elites in the West, decades ago, told themselves that the West was born in the original sins of colonialism and racism, and as a result, they took a wrecking ball to all the core institutions and values of the West.
Wow.
Now, those values, I'm saying in the book, are actually rooted in the Hebrew Bible. They were put into the West by its foundational creed of Christianity, but they're Jewish values, which most people don't even know they are Jewish values.
Wow.
Many Jews don't know they're Jewish values, but they are.
That's true.
And by trying to get rid of those values, it's not surprising, therefore, that the West turned on the Jews themselves. And I came to the conclusion some time ago that the West itself was going off the edge of the cultural precipice. It had done such damage.
How did you come to that?
Oh, by being a journalist and by watching what had happened to the education system in Britain, in which the idea of education as the transmission of a culture through the generations, which is what education is, was deemed illegitimate because the culture was deemed illegitimate.
Wow.
And so you couldn't transmit the culture.
Wow.
You had to build a completely new society. The traditional family, mother, father, children, which is, many people are in untraditional family backgrounds, but nevertheless it's the tried and tested structure over centuries and over civilizations to produce children and adults who will carry on the traditions of the culture, to carry on the culture itself, enable it to survive. That was deemed to be wrong and bad, and the onslaught also on the nation itself. So the institutions of the nation, the democratic institutions that made the laws that were founded in the consent of the people,
Yes.
were considered illegitimate because the nation was illegitimate and consequently had to be superseded by transnational institutions and laws such as the United Nations, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, international human rights law.
Wow.
Now, all those things were inimical to Jewish values. And it seemed to me, after many years of writing about all these things, that they were all part of the same story. That the onslaught on the Jews was part of the onslaught by the West on itself, and that the West was going off the edge of the cultural cliff as a result. And it was opening itself up to predatory outsiders, particularly the Islamists, who understood better than the West that if you destroy your core values, if you destroy your religious base, you are nothing, and you will disintegrate, and you will no longer know what you are, and you will no longer therefore be able to or have the wish to defend yourself. And so you are open territory. And so they've moved in, and so it was. So I came to the conclusion that if the West had any prospect of saving itself, and I didn't know, and I don't know, whether the West can save itself or whether it even wants to save itself. But if it has any chance of saving itself, it has to reconnect to those Jewish values. And
how must it do that?
Well, for example, it must start to reassert them. It must start to reassert that education is the transmission of its historic culture and traditions. It must once again uphold the traditional family. It must encourage people to have children. It must uphold the nation. It must uphold the nation and its values against this ideology of universalism, which is a kind of John Lennon universe. Imagine. You know the John Lennon song, Imagine. Imagine there's no division, no religion, no cultures, and then everyone's going to live in peace and it's going to be the brotherhood of man. Well, no. Actually, everyone then is against everybody else. Because if you can't come together as a nation, you cannot defend your values. And in the West, I believe those Western values are better than other cultures. So I came to the conclusion that if the West was ever going to survive, it had to reconnect to those biblical values, that we Jews had the ability to tell the West, or had the means or the opportunity to tell the West, we can actually help you if you want to survive.
If you want to survive.
Yes, because if you want to survive, we can help you because we Jews have a unique selling point, and that is cultural survival.
And wait, we can learn this all in your book?
Yes. Cultural survival is what we do. We, the Jews, have seen off every culture that's tried to destroy us. They've all disintegrated, and we have survived. So we can tell you how to survive. We know how it's done. And by chance, it just so happens that our values are your values. You got them from us. So what's not to like? I got to that conclusion by October the 6th, 2023. On October the 7th, we know what happened on October the 7th.
Of course.
And from October the 8th, I watched, horrified, as the West, which had been given a challenge by October 7th. The challenge was, do you, the West, support civilization, and therefore do you support Israel's attempt to defend it? Or against barbarism? Or do you support barbarism? And the West has showed us that it did not support civilization. And it seemed to me, looking in horror at how the West responded to October 7, it seemed to me that the West had destroyed, or the West reaction had destroyed conscience, justice, and reason. And I then realized that's precisely what the conclusion was that I had come to about what the West had done to itself in all these decades of attacking itself. It had destroyed within itself conscience, justice, and reason. The two were the same. You couldn't understand the onslaught by the West against Israel and the Jews unless you understood that's what it was doing to itself. And so I turned the book round, I wrote my analysis of what the West had done to itself through the prism of what it had done to the Jews, and I came to, I didn't wish simply to write an analysis of this. I came up with prescriptions as to how it could actually save itself.
Well, let me tell you, I'll be the next person buying your book. Or maybe can I just have this one? Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us today here at the JNS podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm sure, did you give a lecture?
I'm sorry?
You've given a lecture.
I gave a talk today. And
I missed it, but now I'm going to go get the recording because this is very interesting to me. I can't wait to read my book. Don't forget to get your book. Again, it's called The Builder's Stone. And where can you find it? Amazon?
You can buy it on Amazon, yes. That's
okay,
right.
Great. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us again here at JNS. We'll be podcasting all evening. Please join us. See you later.